We're obviously excited to be able to participate in Virtual AppCo. So thank you. Although as I'm as I'm sure others have said, we'd rather be there in person. Technology has come a long way since I started with Motorola, actually during the last century. My name's Kynan Stevenson, and I'm responsible for understanding customer needs and explaining how our technology can result in real benefits, save time, save lives. One of the goals from the vendor community, and frankly, all of us, is to make things easier for you. Our job is to understand the complication and pressure related to everyday mission that you fulfill, serving all of our communities. We all know that it isn't getting easier. There's more inputs, there's more data, there's more of an opportunity to improve things, but there are many separate systems where the telecommunicator has become the integration point. And I'm going to show you just a handful of ways that we can streamline call taking and dispatching activities today with integration between our CAD system and our Astro radio network. So first of all, let me show you what you're looking at up here on the screen. Obviously, in a normal dispatch center, we're going to have multiple monitors. I've consolidated a pile of things down into one place. So in the top right-hand corner, I have our primary CAD application. This is where we're going to do most of our data entry. On the left-hand side is call control. Now, this is the phone system embedded inside of CAD. So when I launch the CAD application, when I log on to CAD, the phone system comes up, assuming I've selected the user role that is required for that. And it allows me to interact with the phone and with the CAD system from a single keyboard. This is one of these areas where if you walk into almost every call center, there's more than one keyboard. There's maybe a switch to switch between those, or the user is physically grabbing different keyboards to operate different portions of that console. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. Quick question, can you all see my screen correctly?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a yes here, I believe. Perfect. So what we can do is with this integration, we can pull everything together so that I've got one keyboard, one mouse. The rest of my screen here, just so you see what we're looking at, I've got a map just kind of small in the corner there. I have a pending queue of pending incidents. I have a riot that is happening here that's been pending for 54 minutes. I'm probably going to lose my job for not dispatching that in a timely manner. I have a radio push to talk window here. Some of the functionality we're going to talk about is things you've seen. Some of it probably isn't. So let's start with the call taking piece. As I mentioned, I'm going to send a 911 call. So my phone's going to start ringing. And what we see here over on the left-hand side is exactly that. So the 911, the call is ringing. I see in the CAD application as well that I have new data available, a new call. Now, I'm going to do simply one thing, one keyboard stroke on the computer, and it's going to bring in that call into my CAD application. It's going to actually answer the phone. So I touched one key on the keyboard. My phone is now green. I'm talking to that reporting party. My data is in the CAD application. I've pulled in rapid SOS data. So I have more than one location, and we can see that on my map. We see a location based on the cell provider here, my phone, and then just slightly up and to the right, I have the location coming in from rapid SOS. So more information to the user, easier for them to quickly make the appropriate decision as they're interrogating that caller. Other things that happen with that single keystroke is I see cautions around the general area of that call. And I've checked for duplicates. There's a number of things that have already happened. At this point, all I have to do is enter an incident type, maybe this is a theft, and simply execute the command. And now I've created this call. It is in the pending queue of the dispatcher, and they can move on and dispatch the call. Directly from the CAD application, we have the ability to interact with that phone system. So on my command line, I can type hold or whatever command you want that to be, and it has now put that call on hold. So we see that it is yellow here. I can click that again to release it. I should say to answer that, to talk again, back on my command line. Maybe I type, release to release that call. In other words, hang up, and I can do that. So it is what seems like a fairly straightforward integration, but very meaningful, because I can affect the overall time that it takes to answer the call, get the appropriate information, get the call dispatched, and get responders rolling so that we can help this individual. As I said, I'm a technology person by trade, and frankly, all the flashing lights and all of that stuff is great, only if it benefits you, only if it benefits the customer. Other than that, it's not worthy. So at Motorola, we spend a huge amount of time and effort trying to determine, are these innovations meaningful? Can they actually help? Will they save time? And those are the kinds of things that I want to show you here today. So call control, integration of the phone system in with the CAD application is part of that. I'm going to switch hats now, and I'm going to become a dispatcher. And to do that, I pulled up a radio console here that I had just kind of hiding behind on my, again, one screen workstation. And I also have, and I'll bring this up and then I'll probably put it away for a minute, but I have a couple of radios. So I have a few APX Next radios, real radios sitting out there that I just have a camera pointed at. And those radios are currently talking actually across the internet on the LTE network to back to my radio core in Illinois. So as we key those up, we see that push to talk being executed right here in the back on my push to talk window. Now we've seen this for a long time. Push to talk is nothing new. It's just one of the pieces of integration that we have. Let's talk about some of the more interesting, some of the more sophisticated pieces of integration. One of them is location. So radio location. Newer radios have GPSs in them. So where does that come into play? When a firefighter is fighting a wildland fire, when a police officer jumps out of a vehicle to chase a suspect, what location do you care about? Do you care about where the car is, where the truck is? Frankly, no, right? Absolutely not. You care about where the person is. So we can, and when I say we, our system can make intelligent decisions as to which one of those GPS sources, which one of those location sources to use, and then present that and show that icon on the map. So because that person is in a foot pursuit status, we're going to show, well, we'll still show the car, but we'll show the person as well. That location can come across FirstNet. It can come across the data network as part of the radio system. It can also come over the voice channel. And this is a big one. So location over push to talk. Every single time we key up that radio, it's going to send in the header of that communication, it's going to send location of that radio. We also have location on receive. So when that radio receives a message, we also get the location coming back. So again, wanting to know where that person is. Messaging, and I have just a quick example here, just a screenshot, but out to that APX radio, in this case a Next, but the older APX radios as well, if it's got a screen on it, we can send incident information to that radio so that the user can see what that is if they're away from their vehicle, away from their MDT. As far as the integration to the main pieces of the radio network, there's a few of them that I think are very powerful and really can save time. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and jump back to CAD here for a second. And I've got this riot that's been in my pending queue for a long time. Let's dispatch that. So I'm going to dispatch a whole bunch of units out to this call. Now, I don't know what radio channel they're using. I know what they probably should be using based on area of coverage and all of that, but I could have, on a big event like this, I could have a whole bunch of people come on, to respond to that event, and I don't know what channel they're on. So I can simply jump up to my command line and I can make a multi-select. So a unit on this call is Tom 311. And simply by saying I want to multi-select every one that Tom 311 is on, we see on my radio console, it's pulled up all the radios and all the channels where those users are. Now, what I'd like a helper over here to have, Craig, if you would mind changing the radio channel on one of those radios. And what I want you to notice is that it's going to change my multi-select dynamically. That multi-select will continue to update and continue to keep the appropriate radios, and we just saw that change, the appropriate radio channels selected so that I can communicate with those field personnel. That's great. Now let's talk about on this event, what if, and what this is really allowed, a multi-select allows me as the dispatcher to communicate with all of them, right? But it doesn't allow them to communicate with each other. They're still on separate channels. On a large event like this, I may want to virtually reach out, grab the knob on their radio, and adjust the channel that they're on. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'll move this over to the side a little bit. First, we'll undo our multi-select here. And then what we're going to do is what we call dynamic regrouping. Dynamic regrouping takes the radios that are associated with this event and physically changes the channel on those radios. Well, virtually, of course, but it really changes the channel. So this is a regroup, and the same thing, we're going to say take Tom 311, and we're going to put them on law disp. That's one of my channels, and I'm going to say group them. And what we see on those two radios now is the channels changed. It says DYN, dynamic. I've literally reached into the pocket of that officer on the officer's hip, on the firefighter's belt, and changed the channel that they are on so that they can all communicate with each other. Now, of course, the user can adjust this. If they need to talk on a different channel, they can get out of that, of course. But it gives us this power of not having to know, did they get my message? Did they hear what I said? Because we know they did. We put them on the appropriate channel. Or in the previous case, we grouped them together dynamically. I didn't have to know what channel they're actually on to be able to make that presentation, or make that statement, make that, add dispatch information. We see this as a huge step forward in the way that dispatchers can interact with field personnel. It takes the dispatcher away from having to waste the time of looking at different places to figure out, do I know what channel they're on? Which groups do I need to connect? Which talk groups should be part of my multi-select? Frankly, I shouldn't have to know that. I just know one of the call signs, one of the units on that incident, boom, they're all on the same talk group like I just did, or I bring them together in a multi-select for the dispatch. This is just one of the ways that we feel that we're bringing true benefit to the industry, making meaningful changes that aren't just simply technology for technology's sake, that truly save time and therefore truly can save lives. Looks like I've got a couple of minutes left. There's one other piece of integration to just discuss, and that is what we call responder alert. And that is that we can have alert messages in CAD because certain things happen across the radio network. And those things can be things like officer down. So the radio is equipped with the ability to recognize that if it's knocked over on its side for a given amount of time, configurable parameters. And if it is, I can now receive an alert in CAD. We have worked with devices that will determine shots fired and pull an event into CAD. Vest pierce, those kinds of things can pull an event directly into CAD and present that to the dispatcher. But the main pieces, as I said, that I really wanted to show you here is this multi-select and regrouping. And I'm going to ungroup these two so that we can see one of these notification messages. I'm going to have Craig put one of these radios, hit the emergency button on one of these radios. You can see his hand back there. This is the great thing about virtual. I'm actually in Texas. Those radios are sitting in Illinois. The system is in another place in Illinois, and we have all of this capability to run this. So there we see our unit in emergency that has popped up in CAD, and that could come from a radio, it could come from the mobile device. And this is the same kind of alert. And you see things that are important here. Because we're getting location, I can track that. I can go to exactly to where that actually is. And this type of notification can be presented to not just the CAD user, but also to other field personnel as well. With that, looks like I said, a couple more minutes. So thank you. Are there any questions? Are there any questions from anyone?
Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question for Kynan. Or you can type something into the chat and I can relay that to Kynan. We do have about 3 minutes left.
Well, I'm certainly never one to keep you in a meeting longer than we need to. I'm certainly never one to keep folks in a meeting longer than they need to be. So with that, I just simply like to thank you very much for your time and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Kynan and Motorola. We appreciate your guys' time and very cool products and solutions that you're providing. For those of you who want to continue on to the next item on the agenda, at 3 o'clock, there's a super session in the auditorium virtual hall. It will be about the earthquake warning system presented by the California Office of Emergency Services. So thank you again, and we appreciate your time.